Yeah. Welcome to a new breed of golf live. I'm just kind of getting this poker chip out here because I know how much you guys want to know about this. We've got our poker chips. They've been blessed with good luck. We only have them in blue and green now, so make sure you get yourself one of these things. I'm going to get to this a little bit later. We've got a really fun show lined up for you as well. A couple other things that we got to talk to you about too. Our logo tournament is running. Greg Ducharme is with me as well as Steve Gibbs. Gibbsy, you want to give a shot of Gregory there for us? Just pull him up. And then that's the close-up. You got the close-up. There you go. Beautiful. There's Greg Ducharme and Steve Gibbs, the boys working hard. So we've got a really fun show lined up. As I said before, I just got a couple of things that I gotta take care of. We got to remind you of a couple of things coming up on Monday. Course records. Sepp Straka is going to be joining us. It's going to be a fantastic interview with him. I'm so excited for that. So make sure you join us over there. That will be at 7:00 on CBS Sports Network. I don't think they're postponing that or delaying that, are they, Greg? Because of the tournament.
I don't believe so. I believe 7:00.
Yeah. So make sure that you know what, you can DVR it, you can record it, do whatever. So we're going to be over there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll talk a little bit about instruction as well to help you improve as we start gearing up for Masters, which is right around the corner. And the other thing is I could see this. You can see my golf shoes that I've got up here. We're all ready for Masters. I've got some various styles in green. They're fantastic. We are going to talk to you today about aim and the importance of aim. If you listen to the show this morning on Sirius XM, we talked about the importance of aim in what we do in our lives. Well, aim is really important in what we do on the golf course. And it's one of those things that you maybe pay a little attention to, but it's not much because you're so busy thinking about what you're doing with your golf swing. And we're going to talk about the importance of aim for the first part of the show. And then obviously we're going to get to some of your questions. So feel free to jump into the chat. Greg will be running through there and he'll also be giving us an update as to what's taking place down at the Valspar. So before we get to our conversation on aim, let's chuck it over to Greg. And Greg, just let us know what's going on over there.
We got a big-time leader at the Valspar. Justin Thomas, he shot 5 under yesterday, played a beautiful round of golf, is back at it again this morning. Through 15 holes, he's 7 under on the day for 12 under total. That's a one-shot lead over Scott Stallings. Also played, he's 5 under through 16 holes today, playing a beautiful round. My horse this week, Adam Hadwin, is right there at 11 under, 4 under through 12 for the day. He's been playing some great golf this year. And the defending champion, if he were to win, it'd be a rules violation for me. But Sam Burns. Yeah, he's at 10 under par, 3 under for the day.
It just made a bogey, right? That's just a bogey for him because he was at 4.
Yep, he was at 11 total. And then you also have, you'll love this, Michael, Webb Simpson. Webb Simpson is on the comeback trail. He's at 9 under, just 3 back, 5 under for the day through 13 holes. It's an exciting leaderboard.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we'll keep you updated as to what's going on at the Valspar, so you don't feel like you're missing anything. But I want to talk to you about aim. So what we've done here, Gibbsy, if you can give me a 1, what we've done here is we've set up a couple of different PVC pipes with some swim noodles. You know how I feel about the swim noodles. And what you can see is our pink one that's in the middle there. That one there is lined up for that target. That target is at about 150 yards. And what I have is I've got 2 goal posts in the blue. And what happens to all of us is we stand up here, and Gibbsy, maybe you can give me a 3 here. What happens is we stand up here, we stand down the line like this, and we look at our target, and we go, okay, this is where we want to go, and then we come into the shot. Now, what I want to do is I want to show what happens to us because we go over here. If I have an 8-iron, my eyes are right here on the 8-iron. So I'm going to put this right here on that 8-iron. Let me get that level for you. And what you can see is that pink swim noodle has shifted dramatically to the right of the target. Now, I know it's a little bit out of focus, so just accept the fact that we're not perfect. But jump back to the camera 7 shot again and look at how that's dead in the middle, and then go back over to this one. And what you can see is that's dead to the right. And that's with an 8-iron. Now, if I go to a 6-iron, it's going to go like this. And if I go to a driver, it's going to shift even more. My driver is now going to block out that barrel at the very end there. I don't know what that is, the the 200 barrel, I think is what it is. But you could see that all of a sudden, what looks like it's in the target is this blue one that's just to the left blue swim noodle, which in the camera 1, so camera 7, pull that full, that camera 7. And what you can see is that is way, 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 way to the left of that target. I stand back here with a driver and now pulled the other one full, and you can see that blue swim noodle is right in the middle of the target. That becomes a tremendous challenge for you. Now, what does that cause? Well, let me tell you a couple things that it causes. One, when you get over here in this shot and you look at this target now looks like it has shifted to the left. It's shifted to the pull side. And when it shifts to the pull side, now what you do is you start pulling across to hit the target. What you need to do is you need to remember, believe it or not, that pink swim noodle is actually the target, which is so difficult for you to grasp. And that's why, in order for you to be successful when you swing, you have to feel like you're swinging out, because you're rehearsing swinging across and you're swinging back to this blue one, and you should be swinging to that right one. And they can differ at about 7 feet by nearly a foot. They're nearly a foot off at 7 feet. So imagine when you go out to 150 yards, how far that is off. Right now, I would tell you that is probably 15 yards to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock that thing down right there. And in my target, I am not, believe it or not, I'm not aiming to hit it into the basket. What I'm going to aim to is the tree that's about 3 trees to the right. That's where I'm going to swing the club, not aim my body, swing the club. So I'm going to set here, swing over to there. And now what I'm going to get is I'm going to hit a little draw. I got that thing turning back to the target. Now, imagine having a 6-iron. So now I go to my 6-iron, put this thing in here again. And now I set up and I look at this 6-iron, and now I have to aim even farther to the push side because my eye line is farther from the strike line. So the strike line is right here. When I'm on top of the strike line, straight is straight. When I'm away from the strike line, straight is not straight. Straight at the target is straight to the right, straight to the push. And what will happen to me when I start to swing to the push is now the club is going to drop down from the inside into a proper delivery position, and I should be able to hit this ball. Now, this is too much club for that target because that target is at 150, but I should be able to hit this ball somewhere towards the target. I caught that a little bit fat, but you can see now what I've got is I've got a golf ball that's starting to the right and turning back to the target. This is what you are dying for. You are trying to hit a draw. The problem is that when you target yourself, when you aim yourself, you don't understand what goes on with this. So how do we get better at aim? I thought you would ask that question. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take your lucky, blessed coin. Let's go back to that down the line shot for me, Gibbsy, if you would. So I've got a camera on the ground here, which I'm gonna get set up for you here. That is pretty much on that line. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this right about there. And that should be, it's maybe just a little bit to the right. So it's probably right about there. And so if you go to camera 1, yeah, so that's down line. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick out what we call an intermediate target. And an intermediate target used by Jack Nicklaus, used by Tiger Woods, is a great advantage for you. Okay. And I'm going to explain to you how you're going to use this intermediate target. I know it sounds crazy to spend this kind of time on something that seems so trivial, but it's not trivial. It's one of the reasons, by you not doing this, it's one of the reasons why you're not able to hit the shot that you desire. Intermediate targets are incredibly valuable for you. And by the way, They're going to get you aiming properly and swinging properly. Okay. So understand, aim affects swing. It just simply does. So what happens here is that I've taken that target that's 150 and I've moved it to about 2.5 feet. And what I'm going to do is, and what Nicholas did and what Tiger did was, they set the club face at that target, then they square themselves to that, and then they hit the ball over that. Okay. So I get in here, I do that, and now I'm going to hit that over that target, and you have a variation. You're going to take your eyes and you're going to move them up to here, then bring them back to here, then move them up to there. So you're going to keep verifying that. And now you're going to make a swing, and I hit it over that target, and guess what happens? It goes over the target, and that white little speck that's out there at about 175, I hit it right in there because I used that intermediate target effectively. Now, I'm going to show you some other things that this intermediate target is going to do for you and how it's going to help you aim, because aim is such a fascinating word to me in the game of golf, because there's a lot of things to aim, right? So let me get my alignment sticks here, okay? When we aim, in a camera one here, Gibbsy, when we aim, I have to aim the following things. I want to aim the club face. Then I want to aim the body lines. So I'm going to aim my toe line. I'm going to aim my knee line. I'm going to aim my hip line. I'm going to aim my shoulder line, okay? Now, the most important of these four lines, is the shoulder line. Believe it or not. The toe line, not that important. The knee line, important, but not as important. The hip line, that can be important, but it's not as valuable as the shoulder line. And the shoulder line, when I set my aim properly, what I want to do is I want to take my shoulder line and I want to take this aim here from ball to intermediate target line. So I'm going to put that right there. And that's skewed a little to the right, so not perfect. But what I want to do is I want to take these two lines and I want to make them parallel. If I set my shoulders like this, I'm going to tend to swing my hand path to the left. You know, those of you that listen to Gibbsy, let's go to a 2 here, bud. So those of you that listen to the show on Sirius XM, what I say all the time to you is it takes no athletic ability to set up properly. Aim requires zero athletic ability. What you have to be able to do, let's go back to 1. What you have to be able to do is set these lines parallel. Shoulder line and target line parallel to one another. Now, that does not necessarily mean that this is where the ball is going to end up, because we're going to curve it. Most times the ball is going to curve. But what you need to do is you need to appreciate that these need to be parallel, or at least somewhat parallel. So what I visualize in my mind when I set up and I use the intermediate target is I visualize this line right here. I literally can see a line going from the ball out to my intermediate target. I visualize that line, and then I visualize my shoulder line. So what I do is I look at this and I look at that and I go, are those parallel? Okay, yeah, they're pretty parallel. All right, good. So now I'm in a good position. And one of the guys who looks to me like they're so good at this is Kevin Kisner. Now, I can't tell you that he uses an intermediate target, and I don't know what he's thinking about. But what it looks to me is when I look at his shoulder line looks like it is dead on to where he's trying to aim. It's fantastic. Okay, so he gets in here like this, and I want you to get in here like this and keep that intermediate target, and then look up at that finishing target, and then make your swing. And what you're going to get is you might not get a shot that is going to finish exactly where you want it, but it's going to finish close. That shot right there, that was about, I don't know, it curved maybe a yard. It didn't curve very much. And when it finished, it's probably 15 feet to the right of the hole. And with a 6-iron, that's not a bad shot. And so what you want to do is you want to use this intermediate target to help you set the aim of your body, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, your feet. But the most important is the shoulders, and then the second is the hips. So you go basically from top down. This is number 1, most important. This is number 2. These are number 3. These are number 4. Okay? Very simple. I'll show you what I mean about that. All right? Don't try this at home. If I were to set up facing, say, with my feet to camera 1, and I intend to hit this in that direction, clearly my feet are not going parallel to that target. When I take the golf club and I aim the face, I go like that. Now all of a sudden, this club face and these feet are basically parallel. The only way I'm going to be able to get this ball to go down that line is to alter my shoulder line. So I turn my shoulders. I got to get my ball position right. I turn my shoulders here. Now, what you can see is my shoulders are sort of in line with that intermediate target in the golf ball. My hips are not, but they're closer. My knees are not, and they're not as close as the hips, but they're closer than the feet. So the lines are going like this, like this, like this, and then finally like this. So I stand here to hit that down there. All I need to do is hit it over that intermediate target, and I hit it over that target, and it goes down the line. Now, I'm not making a big swing because I've tied my body up. But the point is that I can get that ball to travel down the line because I got my shoulders parallel to that. And when I do that, now my arms and my hands can function properly. I can't make a great follow through. I'm not going to make a completely big, massive backswing. I'm not going to have the same club head speed, but I can take the club face and I can square it down the line. I can get some hand path down the line. So I can get the ball to travel at my target. Not as far as I want, but I can get it to travel at my target. So now finally, how do we use all this? Okay, so let's just take these things. We'll kick these down. Okay, now let me show you how you're going to use all of this. Okay, so we talk about aligning yourself properly. Always start. Where are we? Here, go to 3, Gibbsy, for me. So what we do is we start behind here with that target up there and this golf ball right here. You're going to find an intermediate target. You can't put out an intermediate target. It's against the rules to drop that, like go out there with a tee and go, oh, I'm going to put a tee down. No, that's a rules violator. Okay? Make me drop my club. It's a rules violator. You're going to find one. And the golf ball, believe it or not, the intermediate target that you have, it doesn't have to be directly in line. It could be slightly to the right. And if it's slightly to the right of the center line, you're going to miss it to the left. And if it's slightly to the left, well, then you're going to miss it to the right. So it just needs to be in the neighborhood. It doesn't have to be absolutely precise. What I am adamant about is this intermediate target being no closer than, say, a foot and no farther than 3 feet. I'm preferring like in that sort of 2 foot, 2.5 foot range. That's the one that I enjoy most. Now, what you're going to do, and this one here, you're probably going to want to take a 5 and zoom in on. So here's what you're going to imagine now, okay? You're going to imagine, actually, you know what? I put this out here for a reason. So here's what you're going to imagine. This is a square. You're going to imagine this. I'm not going to hit the ball, but you're going to imagine this. There's a square. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take the instep of your foot, parallel the square, and come in as you put the club face in there. So the instep of the foot and the square itself and the club face, they're all sort of parallel. So we bring that in like that. That we do so that we can establish our distance to the ball. So we come in like this. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your lead foot and you're going to bring it up, and you're going to try to bring it up so that it is roughly parallel to this line here. That's a great shot there, Gibbsy. Fantastic. So you bring it up roughly to that. And what you're doing here is you're establishing not just aim again, but ball position, right? So When I come in here with a 6-iron, I'm just taking a step up that's a little bit more than a club, and then I'm dropping this back like that. Okay, so you go, it's a dance step. Right foot, left foot, right foot. Let's try that again. I'll do this up back here so you don't have to move that camera there, Gibbsy. Okay, so bring that camera a little bit back. So now we go, no, the other way, yeah. Go on the other way, bud. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so now we come in and we go right foot, left foot, right foot. If you're a left-hander, you're going to go trail foot, lead foot, trail foot. Okay? Trail foot, lead foot, trail foot. So we go parallel, 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 and now this line is good. So now I'm going to take this out. So you can vision, now you see what I see in my mind. So I come in here, I have my intermediate target. I'm going to move this back over here so I don't hit my little camera that I got on the ground. So I'm going to come in here like this. I'm going to square that up. I'm making sure that that foot is square to that. Just like that. Now I have my angles and setup position. Now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to rifle this thing right over that target right there. And now I'm hitting a shot that is, oh, I want to say Scott Norwood, but just a little bit to the right of the target. So at that point, that's still a really good shot. Understand this. Aim and its influences. If you don't use an intermediate target, the target will shift to the left on you or to the pull side. And that will influence an over-the-top swing, which will then create a major loss in distance, a really bad strike on the face, low trajectories, lots of side spin, and a very difficult golf ball to chase around a golf course. In fact, you're probably going to chase more than one golf ball around the course. So let me just go over this one more time. Okay. Camera 3. So we're going to get here. We're going to get our intermediate target. We come around like this. We have the golf club in our hands. We set the club face square to that. Make sure the instep is parallel to the face. Then you bring the left foot up, the lead foot up, and drop the trail foot back. You're keeping that intermediate target just like Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus and the best players in the world. And don't even worry, like you're going to look up there, but you're not going to really focus on swinging to that. You're swinging to this. So you get in here like this, and you're capturing 2 targets. And then you're going to hit yourself a nice little draw that's going to come down right around the target that you intend. That's the way you're going to do it. That's how you're going to aim. One of the most important things that you can do, and one of the most overlooked aspects of the entire golf game, golf swing, golfing, is that importance of aim and what's going on with that. Okay. All right, Greg, let's jump over to some questions that we might have.
Also important to note, Justin Thomas just made a double bogey. So he was kind of doing your dance step. He missed to the left, he missed to the right, he left it in the bunker, and then he hit it on the green. Okay. But anyway, so he's no longer leading. Question from Fernando. Is this mostly with long irons and fairway woods?
It's with everything. It's with everything, because your aim is going to change. You can get away with it. If I go to a wedge, which I love saying that word, by the way, but if I go to a wedge, because my eye line is now closer to this, the target isn't going to shift as much, right? The shorter the club, the closer this, but it's still pull side. It's still on the pull side. So a lot of people ask this question. They say, Michael, I tend to pull my short irons and I slice my long irons or my driver. What's going on? It's way too complicated of a point for me to make about the importance of aim. But here's the deal. You're going to pull the club less with a short iron than you will with a driver, because the target doesn't shift. So when I go back here, that target has shifted massively. Remember I said before, the target shifts to the blue swim noodle. It shifts that far. So now I'm swinging to the blue swim noodle. Let me just pull this up. Go ahead and pull a 7 if you would, Gibbsy. I'm going to pull that up. And when you look at that in the down the line view, There's not one part of you that thinks that if I hit this ball over this swim noodle right here, I'm nowhere near that target. I'm just not. But when I get my driver and I stand here like this, that blue swim noodle looks like it's in the center of that target over there. And so now I swing to this blue swim noodle. And the thing, if I don't slice it, I'm never going to be able to play. I have to keep the club face open because the ball's going to start so far to the pull side that the face has to be open to spit back to the target. And that's when you lose your distance. And so what I would tell you is it more important? No. You just get away with it because you're closer to this than over here. But it's not more important. It's equally as important. Okay? All right, go ahead.
This from Mickey. After checking all your address lines, where is your eye line?
The eye line varies. I mean, I hate to say this, but the eye line varies. And the eye line varies because what's strange about it is your eye line is moving here and here. So with an 8-iron, they're all still parallel. But my eye line is here with a pitching wedge, it's here with an 8-iron, it's here with a 6-iron, it's here with a 3-wood, and it's here with a driver. But the other thing that happens with the eye line is not only are the eyes like this, go ahead over to 2 for me. Not only are the eyes like this, so they're parallel as we talked about, but I can tilt them. So when I get in with a driver, I go to a driver and I get to here. Now my eye line is actually tilted up. And that also, believe it or not, distorts things. If you don't think it distorts things, here's what I want you to do. What I want you to do is I want you to get in your car, go to a parking lot. Don't do this on the road. Go to a parking lot and try to drive with your eyes tilted like this and see how effective it is. It's not effective at all. Your eyes are moving. And then within your eye lines, the eyes are moving in the socket, the same way as a shoulder is moving in a socket. So eyes are moving all the time. The initial start is I want them parallel, and then depending upon the club itself, they're going to have a little bit of a tilt. A pitching wedge, they don't have a lot of tilt. With a driver, they're going to have a lot of tilt because the spine has some tilt to it. So I wouldn't worry so much about the eye line necessarily, because the other thing we didn't get into is eye dominance. Right eye dominant, left eye dominant. So if you think about Jack Nicklaus, who was left eye dominant, would turn his eyes like this before he moved. So he basically shifted his eye line. Did he shift his feet? No. Did he shift his knees or hips or shoulders? Likely not. But he shifted his eye line. And what that allowed him to do was that allowed him to free up. We see this all the time. Dustin Johnson makes a big swing and it takes his chin and it turns it. We see it from other players on tour as well. There is some turning that goes on as a result of turning shoulders. There's some turning that goes on with the eye line. Just keep that intermediate target. I hope that answers that question for you. Okay.
This from Philip. How do I set up the right distance from the ball?
Okay. This is a wonderful question, Philip. So, and one that we get a lot, right? Distance to the ball is, it varies with golf clubs, right? So if I take a pitching wedge and I take a 6-iron and I hold those 2 clubs there, those 2 clubs in that line. Yeah, great shot there, Gibbsy. So those 2 clubs vary by, I don't know, maybe 3-4 inches. So if my pitching wedge is here, my 6-iron, I'm going to be 3 or 4 inches back. So those are different. Okay. But what isn't different is balance. So we start talking about balance. We're talking about where's our weight distribution in our feet, not left side, right side, but toe side, heel side. So when I set up, if I get too far from the ball, I'll tip out onto that's a great shot, Gibbsy. I'll tip out onto my toes and I'll feel my heels very light, but my toes feel very heavy. I'm actually trying to lift my toes up in the air. I can't. Now I shift back to here. And now if you go back to that same shot again, Gibbsy, which is great. Now I can wiggle my toes and lift them up in the air, but I can't do the same with my heels because my weight is too much on the heels. So if you go to 1 now, if I get in here with a 6-iron and I'm too close, I'm going to feel my weight getting pushed back to my heels. And if I set up too far, I'm going to feel my weight getting chucked out to my toes. And so what you have to do is you have to be aware of what's going on in your feet. So what I like to do is this. If we go back to that 1 shot again, What I like to do is I like to feel like my weight is literally right in the middle of my arches right here. So when I set up, what I try to do is I try to shift to the toes, shift to the heels, and then find center. So a great drill for you is just set up to the ball wherever it is where you normally would. So let's say I set up here. Okay, so this is what's comfortable. Now I shift toes, I shift heels, and I get centered. And now, without looking down at where the ball is, I just drop my club down. And what you can see is that's set up in the hosel. So that's telling me, hey, I need to get a couple of inches away from this. So now I go back here. Now I do the exact same routine. So I go toes, heels, and then center. I'm still not looking down. I drop the club. Okay, now it's good. Now I can go ahead and hit my shot. And, oh, yes, what a catch by the target. So pay attention to weight distribution, and that will tell you how far from the ball that you need to be or what you should be.
Next is from Billy. And there's 2 questions here. Love the show, guys. What should the tilt of my shoulders look like at setup? My right shoulder tends to dip. Also, what's the proper way to mark a ball on the green?
Billy, I love you. Okay. So for all of you that don't know, that is our good friend, Billy Dowling, who is our producer on A New Breed of Golf on Sirius XM and has made an amazing difference in all of our lives, in the show itself. And those of you, like, you listen to the show and we hear this all the time. I love your show, Michael. It's great. Billy Dowling is a big part of that reason. So Billy, thank you. Or William, as I call him occasionally. Thank
Only
you so
on
much.
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, St. Patrick's Day. Sorry. So, the proper way to mark a ball, is that really where we should go first?
If you want to go there first, I don't know if we can open. I don't know if we have enough time for that one.
Okay.
It's debatable,
but
not really.
Okay. So here's the way this works. The shorter the golf club, the more you're bent over in effect, and the less your shoulders have tilt. Okay. So for instance, when I have a pitching wedge, I'm going to have sort of my most tilt. And what that does is it takes the bend and goes like this. And as you bend over more this way, now go back to the face on, you have less of this. So if you're bending a whole lot at address, what I would say is you're probably not bending over enough with your short clubs, okay? Because a pitching wedge, short club pitching wedge, and you can see there's a little bit of a difference here, but the spine is not really tilted back very much. It might be 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 degrees. But if I go to a driver and I set up here, now what I'm going to get is I'm going to get a little bit more of a tilt. And as I tilt a little bit more, because I'm standing up a little bit taller, so here's my driver swing, here's my pitching wedge swing. So when I get into my driver address position, now I'm sort of up here, and that gives me the tilt. That also allows me to hit up on the ball. And one of the things that we're doing with a driver versus an iron is with a driver, we're going to swing along the ground or possibly even swing up on the shot. With an iron, we don't want that. We want to be swinging down on it. And with a pitching wedge in particular, because it's shorter, it's swinging down even more. So the angle of the shoulders is a prediction of the path of the golf club as it's swinging through sort of in this horizontal fashion, right? It's kind of coming down a little bit more, or it's not coming down quite so much. Billy, I love you. All right, go ahead.
Okay, this one's from Paul. I set up my long irons, opened up a little bit. I'm assuming that means the face, but it might mean the body. How does that work with your instruction?
Well, this is what I'm going to guess. Who's that from again?
This is from Paul.
Paul. So Paul, this is what I'm going to guess. What I'm going to guess is that with your longer irons, you probably fade it a little bit more. And you might even be trying to get it up into the air a little bit higher. So you open up your stance. So you get in here like this, you open this way. And what that will do is that is going to promote a path that's pulling across a bit more. And if you can offset that with the club face and fade it, I'm okay with that, because you're going to create more curve with less loft. What I would say is, obviously, that's not an ideal thing that we want to see. And if you go back to Hogan's books, and I mean, he's written a few. You go back to his books, what he does with his, if you go down the line here, Gibbsy, what he does with, as he starts to extend the golf club and he widens his stance, what he does is he drops that trail foot inside a little bit more. So if you're talking about when you go back, you're taking this foot and you're opening up a little bit more, I just think it's going to exaggerate the across the line swing, and it's going to create a start path that's going to be well to the pull side of your target, and then create a little bit more side spin. I wouldn't necessarily do that. What I might do, though, is I might put that ball position a little bit more forward. And what I also might do is square up. Now, the final part of this is that as you start to open your stance a bit more, what you do is, unless you're going to swing absolutely intently along that line, what you tend to do is you tend to inhibit the amount of rotation that you get out of your trail hip. So if we go into this position here, the more I take my foot and go up here, the less my hip can turn. The more I go here, and which is why I believe Hogan did this, the more you go over there, the more rotation. You can see the pocket of my lead side right there. If I go over to here and I turn, you can't barely see it at all. So what I would suggest is you're probably losing some distance when you do that. I might just try to nudge the ball a little bit more forward, keep your line square, and make that good turn behind it. That'll help straighten out that shot.
This is from Jay. Where should I focus my eyes during the swing? Front of the ball, back of the ball, or does it matter?
This is always one of I love this topic of conversation, because this is, we talk about aim. Aim is a target, right? So what I try to tell people, and I've got a really cool piece that will be coming out in Golf Digest in the not too distant future about targets. Okay. So let's just try to just understand this for a second. When we talk about a target, when we're playing golf, we typically think about, well, where we're trying to hit the golf ball. But what happens to people is, I'm going to take this camera and I'm going to move it out of the way here so that I don't hit it. And let me also take this and shut this down, because that'll get a little confusing. So when we talk about targets, the best players in the world, when they're playing their very best, they always have one target, and that target is where they're trying to get the ball. Now, that target can include an intermediate target, but it's basically a target of where the ball is going to go to. Okay. The target can be sometimes where they want the ball to land, and sometimes the target can be where they want the ball to start. But the target is always like outside of the golf ball. Players that struggle, and I'm talking about particularly what we'll call newbies, players that are new to the game, they have a target, and that target is the golf ball. So they stand over here and they want to hit the golf ball. That becomes the target. The elite player has taken that sort of challenge of hitting the ball, and they've basically eliminated it. So I know I'm going to hit, it's like, well, I'm going to hit the ball. I know that, but I want to hit it over there. And so they play one target out there. And then newbies and players struggling play one target right here. And then most of us are playing two-target golf. Two-target golf is contact on the ball and where we want the ball to go. But frankly, many times you're playing with two targets, but you sort of have it's kind of like going to college. You have a major and a minor. So the major is the golf ball. That's our major. Our minor is that. I want to hit this ball solidly. And where it goes, it's important, but it's not like there's nothing more embarrassing than swinging and missing the ball. And then that's like in the embarrassment scale, number one. Number two is hitting the ball and it dubbing along the ground. We don't like that. Number three is, well, I hit it pretty solidly, but it went off my line. And now we get into the really good excuses, right? Which is kind of fun. Point being, when you play with targets, you have to have an eye. Your eyes are intent on something. Now, this is where this jumps a little bit. What I want to do with a certain level of player is I want their eyes to be sort of gazing at the ball, not staring at the ball. So when I get in here to hit this shot, I'm not really staring at the ball. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the target, and then I'm hanging on to the image of the target in my mind. So when I look up here now in my mind, now I'm seeing through my mind's eye, which is just my ability to hang on to an image. So what I'm seeing is I'm seeing the target, and then I see those trees that are behind it. So right now, I'm not even looking at this camera. I'm seeing the image of that's exactly right, of what's on that screen. And so I'm seeing those trees that are to the right of my target. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking at the ball. I stare at my target. I come down here. I'm gazing at the ball and remembering what that looks like. And I call it seeing through my ear. So I imagine that my ear is an eyeball and it's seeing out there. So I'm seeing that target that's out to the right, that tree that's out. Great shot there. That tree that's out to the right. Zoom in. That's the one that's just over that golf ball. So if the golf ball to the right of the target there, Gibbsy, go back to that shot that you had. See that ball that's to the right of the target? See that tree go up? Yep, go up right there. That target, and I'll point this out, that's the target that I'm visualizing in my mind, that right there. So when I come into this, what I do is I look down at this, I stare at that. Now I'm capturing that. I'm standing over this. I'm reaffirming that. So I know when I look up, I'm looking right to that spot. And now I've got that. And now I take the contact for granted, and then I make my golf swing. And that's basically how it works. And so what you need to do is you need to make sure that you see through your ear, is the way I like to say this. See through your ear. Gaze at the ball, stare at your target. Gaze at the ball, see through your ear, so that you never have what I call the black cloud. And the black cloud is when you stand over the shot, you don't see anything. It's just like a whoosh, right here. It's like a curtain. It's right down here. You don't see anything. And now all of a sudden you're playing one target golf, which is this, and you're never going to be able to get a golf ball to go. I mean, literally, like it is like trying to roll double sixes. You're going to occasionally get lucky, but for the most part, you're only going to hit that one in every 15, 20, 30 times at the target. Okay. So see through your ear. Wonderful, wonderful question. Very, very important in how we can perform best. Let's get a little update and see what's going on up there on the PGA Tour.
So as I said, Justin Thomas made a double bogey. He is now 10 under par. He's 5 under through 17, and he trails Scott Stallings and Adam Hadwin. They're at 11 under par. Scott Stallings is posted at 11, and Adam Hadwin's through 14 holes. Justin Thomas, one back of them, along with Sam Burns, the defending champion. Webb Simpson is at 8 under par, along with Tommy Fleetwood and David Lipsky. And there are still a couple of big names yet to go, all at 4 under par. Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, and Louis Oosthuizen, who's a fan favorite here, one of my favorites as well. They're 4 under. They're not teeing off until a little after 1 o'clock.
Okay, terrific. All right, let's go back to some questions here, and great participation by all of you. This is always so fun for me because, you know, we're always trying to think of different ideas to come up with, but you all are the one, you carry your issues with you. We don't know exactly what's going on. And so until you ask the question, it's hard for me to know what is plaguing you or preventing you from reaching your goal of whatever your goal may be, shooting your lowest score or breaking 100 or whatever.
This one from Mark. I draw the driver. I already have a strong grip in play, but I'm not closing the face efficiently. Can you tie path into this to help me correct?
Okay. We're now in golf swing 300. Okay. So let me put this down here. Gregory, if you could, will you set the sim so that we get club data on this? Now, while he does that, here's what is so hard to understand. The face of the golf club affects the initial start line of the golf ball. The face of the golf club affects the start line of the golf ball. Okay? So what we're going to do is when we come through, you're going to save that up there. We'll go over there. Gibbsy, I'm going to need a camera 3 to go over to this back screen, if you would. And I know you got a lot of stuff going on. This is a very interesting question, one that is just sort of understanding golf. Like I said, 300 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this club and I'm going to close the club face. And then I'm going to swing pretty violently out to the push side. And then we're going to see all the information I'm going to break down for you. You know what? Do this also too, Greg, if you would. Erase all the shots for us so that we only have one
How about a trace?
Yeah, trace is good. Trace would be very good. Yeah. All right, so here we go. So like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this club face, I'm going to close it. I'm going to swing out to the right fairly significantly. This ball is not going to start as far to the right as I swing it. Okay, so there's my Burt Blyleven curveball. That thing curved, by the way, nearly 70 yards. It curved nearly 70 yards. Now, let's go over to club data. Can you pull the club data up there? Go to club analysis. Okay, wonderful. So I want you to look at this. And Gibbsy, just zoom in a little bit closer into this. And you don't even have to have me in here, basically. Just zoom in right into this because this is going to be, there you go. And then kind of, there you go. Perfect. Okay. Now what you can see is, so this thing that says in to out right here, that in to out is basically to the right. So I swung that club 12.5 degrees out to the right-hand side. Now, the ball started only 3.1 degrees to the right. So if you think about this for a second, let's come over to camera one here. So when I stand here like this, I swung the club out to there. But because I had the club face so closed, it started only 3 degrees to the right, which means that I had that club closed, and it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's closed around 9 degrees. So my club path is 12. My start line is 3. And what happens to us is we start thinking, well, I need to swing more to the right. No, you don't need to swing more to the right. What you need to do is get more control over the face. So now what I'm going to do here, and Greg, if you could set this up so that I can, so the sim will pick it up. I'm going to try to swing again, like 12 degrees out to the right. But this time, I'm not going to have the club face closed as much, and there's going to be a whole lot of differences. So let me capture some information off of that screen in the front. So the vertical launch on that shot was 12.5 degrees. The ball speed was 118. The backspin was 3,400. Okay? So I'm 12.5, 118, and 3,400. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this out to the right, 12.5 degrees. I'm not going to close the club face, maybe even have it open. We'll see what we get. Caught that a little bit on the fat side. Okay, I caught that a little bit on the fat side. You could see that didn't twist as much. So now, it didn't get the read of it. Let me try it again. I didn't put a new. Here we go. See if we get this again. Okay. So let's see what we get out of this one. Okay, fantastic. So here's what we got. So now what I got is I got a swing 14.9. So I swung that more out to the push side. But because I controlled the club face, it only started 9.4 degrees to the right. So what I did was I altered that swing direction by 2 degrees right, but I had the club face open more, and all of a sudden it changed 6 degrees. So I had that club face 6 degrees more open. So instead of that golf ball starting out to the right by 3 degrees, it started out to the right by 9.4. Now, remember the numbers that I read to you? So before the first one was a launch of 12 point something. That launch is 17.4. So as I open up that club face, now it launches it up into the air. What also happened was because I opened that club face a little bit more, and I didn't quite hit it exactly perfectly in the dead center, but I opened up that club face a little bit more. My ball speed came down. So ball speed there dropped to about 112, 111.5. So we round up. Okay. And as I showed you before, the spin, because I had more open face, higher launch, ball doesn't go as far. But what also happens is if you look at the backspin number that I said before, that backspin number, which is this number right over here, that backspin number was 3,400. That goes to 4,500 because of that club face. So very, very interesting way of trying to get you to understand the following notion. And this is the most important part of this whole thing. And I promise you, this is true. Okay. Focus on controlling your club face. Get great at controlling your club face. I promise you, your club face has more of an effect on the start line of the golf ball than your swing direction does, because your swing direction isn't going to change that much. It may change by a couple of degrees, but it's not like at one moment you're swinging 2 degrees to the right and the next moment you're swinging 8 degrees or 9 degrees or 10 degrees to the right. It doesn't happen like that. But what does happen is your ability, or more than that, your inability to control the consistency of the club face. So while I know you want me to talk to you about what to do with the path, what I'm urging you to do is think about the club face, because the club face is going to be the thing that is going to allow you to start this ball more on the line that you intend and get it to finish at the target that you're hoping for. Okay? Very interesting question. Go ahead.
I think this question's a perfect follow-up to that. This is from Martin. I was hitting about 10 degrees out to in with a face closed 17 degrees. I was able to get the path down to 3 degrees out to in during the lesson, but I'm still having issues with a closed face. Any ideas?
Okay. So we've got a closed club face. So remember, I go back to this thing we talked about at the very, very beginning, which is it takes no athletic ability whatsoever to set up properly to the golf ball. Well, what's the most important thing in how you set up to the golf ball? What you're saying is, yeah, I've shifted my path, but I can't get control of my face. What would you do? Gregory, what would you do?
Alter the grip.
Alter the grip. Alter the grip. So these are simple things. Okay. If you want, and I don't care whether you're right-handed or left-handed, if you want the ball to not go left, turn your grip, turn your hands to the left. So let me show you what I mean. So if I'm trying to avoid this going to the left, I'm going to rotate my hands over here to the left. And now that looks like a very weak grip. Now when I hit this shot, I'm going to hit a shot that's going to have a relatively straight, not very powerful motion that's going to go more or less where I want it to go. If I don't want it to go to the right, in other words, my golf ball is curving to the right, I want to get away from that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to rotate them to the right. And when I rotate them to the right, now they would be in that what we would call strong position. And now when I do that, now what I'm going to get is I'm going to get a golf ball that is not going to curve to the right. It will curve slightly left or go straight. And so what I would urge you to do is, if you are trying to solve the issue of face, solve it with your hands and how you put them on the club first. And here's the one thing that I will emphasize to you about all this. There's a great line that says, basically starts with this: relax, calm down, whatever it is you want to say, it doesn't matter. Everything is hard before it's easy. Everything is difficult before it's easy. And so in this situation, everything is uncomfortable until it's comfortable. Everything is uncomfortable until it's comfortable. Yes, it may take you a week, a month, 2 months, whatever, to get comfortable with your grip, but continue to do it and you will get comfortable with how you put your hands on the club. I promise you, it takes a little bit of time, but just trust yourself, okay? It's uncomfortable until it's comfortable. Go ahead.
From Christopher, I'm having trouble hitting up on the ball with the driver. Even if it looks like the ball is going high, I still get -4 to 0 angle of attack and lots of backspin. Do you have any tips?
Yeah. So, all right. So here's the deal. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to set up some stuff here. Gregory, if you could, I don't have a marker for this driver. Actually, you know what I can do? I can take this one from the 6-iron. So I'm going to take this, put this on here, and then we'll get an idea of what goes on. So lots of backspin from a steep angle of attack. Now, steep angles of attack really come from, in my opinion, shoulder lines that are parallel to the ground instead of pointing into the air. And that comes from grips that are too far to the left or too far to the weak side. So what I like to call no knuckles knuckles. So when I hold it weak, I can't see any knuckles on my lead hand. I can see a ton of knuckles on my trail hand. When you start to go with knuckles, no knuckles like that, now all of a sudden, knuckles, no knuckles actually leads to a stronger grip, and it leads to a alteration of what goes on with your shoulders. So don't know whether this is going to work or not, but we'll see what we get from the sim. So I'm going to go weak here. And now when I do that, let's go back to, so now my shoulders are level to the ground. It almost looks like my zipper on my sweater is in front of the belly button that I proudly possess. And now what I do when I go like this and I swing from here, the club will tend to work outside. I'll tend to drop my shoulder. My lead shoulder will go down like this. And then I hit that shot. It flights out low, has a tremendous amount of spin, spins over to the right-hand side. Now, let's see what we get with this out to in. Okay, so my descent angle there, which for me, because I'm hitting up it a little bit, is 7.9. Now, watch what happens. Watch how I shallow out. That was 7.9 degrees down. Now, watch how I shallow this one out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to alter my grip. So I'm going to go knuckles, no knuckles. My shoulders are now tilted in a very different fashion. So now I'm up near that apex, by the way, just for those of you that are keeping track, at 42 feet. Now I'm going to go this way. And now I hit that shot. Now let's just see what happens with my angle of attack of the golf club. By the way, I hit that one a little bit farther. And now what I got was I got an angle of attack that was actually going upward. That's going in an upward direction. That's not measuring the downwards. It's going in an upward direction. That ball left at 15.3 degrees. The other thing that happened was I swung into out by 9.7. So what I got by altering the grip was I got added distance, added ball speed, added apex. I'm feeling great about things. And so what I would recommend is, when we talk about the grip, how important it is, these are all alterations that are taking place before you put the club in motion. Knuckles, no knuckles, tilt of the shoulders, higher trajectory, even though I have less loft on the face, even though that ball is spinning with hook. In fact, the shot that I hit before, the backspin on the shot before, the one that went the other, it was about 18, I think it was 1880 something. And this one is 1465. So not a tremendous amount of backspin, but less because the club face is more shut. So I carry it 230, it rolls to 253. Boy, we love that extra distance, okay? So mess around with your grip. That will change your shoulder line, which will straighten out that angle of attack. You'll swing out to the right more, but also, too, you'll hit up on it. Well, I'll say this. You'll hit down on it less, a whole lot less, okay? All right, here we go.
This is from Kevin. Titleist T100S player. Great choice, Kevin.
I knew I loved Kevin the second I heard him. Well, go ahead.
With their stronger pitching wedge loft, they need to add a gap wedge. What yardage gaps do you recommend between wedges?
So this is a really difficult one. So here's what I would say. With the pitching wedge, I want a 10-yard gap for most players. High club head speed players, it'll be 15. That's why it's hard. But for most players, 10-yard gap from 9-iron to the pitching wedge. From there, It depends on so many different things. But what I would tell you as a rule is if you are a 4 wedge player, so you're going to go pitching wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge. So if you're a 4 wedge player, then I want 4 degrees of loft between them. And then when you have 4 degrees of loft, you should get about a 10-yard difference between those wedges. Okay? If you are a 3 wedge player, this is when things change dramatically. So I'm a 3 wedge player. I play a 46 pitching wedge, a 53 gap, and a 58 in my lobber. But I use my lobber also for my sand. So the difference in the distances is from my pitching wedge, which is about 135, to my 53, which is about 110, is a lot. It's 25 yards. However, I can take my pitching wedge and I can make it go a little bit shorter distance. I'm very comfortable opening it up and taking some distance out or adding some loft to the club and then hitting it full, gripping down, whatever. So my pitching wedge has a lot of variability to it. My gap wedge at 53, there's about a 15-yard difference between the 53 and the 58. So I'm not uncomfortable with that, but I have that larger gap between the pitching wedge and my 53, and that's because I'm comfortable with that. But as a rule, I would say 4 degrees of loft difference and 10 yards in your gap. Okay.
This is from Jeff. Michael, I'm trying to help my 15-year-old daughter play from bunkers. She struggles with slight open alignment and wants to hit square shots. Any help on how to teach the comfort from open stance in bunker play? # Chunk City. Okay. She's also a high bounce wedge in play.
Okay. So here's what, and I think we've done this one time before, but here's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you could, Greg, throw me that white roll of tape that we have in there. And then after you throw me the tape, yeah, perfect. Nice throw. Okay. So here's how you're going to do this. You're going to rip off some, whoops. You're going to rip it off better than I ripped it off. Okay. Let's try that one more time.
It was a good try.
Yeah. I mean, it was not terrible. Everybody needs a mulligan every once in a bit. Got my mulligan. Okay. So what you do is you take this tape and you put it on the shaft like this. So we're going to wrap it around just like this. Okay. So there you go. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Maybe in 3, if you zoom in on that in 3, just come on over. Yeah. And then yeah, perfect. Okay. So there's the white tape that I've put on that club shaft. Now, have you got a Sharpie for me, Gregory?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Blue?
Yeah, perfect. Okay. See that? Good pass, good catch. Now, what I do is I take the Sharpie, I put it on the ground like this, I set it, and this is what I would tell you to do. Set it to how open you want it. Then all you're going to do is you're just going to draw a line straight up the shaft like this. Okay? And now what will happen is all you do is tell her, hey, take that blue line and point it to your chin. When you point it to your chin, you're going to have it in the same place every single time. And so she goes, okay. And she goes like that. And now the club face is open the way you want it to be open. And now just go ahead and hit it. And she hits it. And sure enough, she's going to have great bunker success. So get a piece of white tape, tape that around the shaft, then get a Sharpie, draw a line in there, make sure that it's going open and up to the chin, and just let her swing. And you'll solve that problem. Go ahead, Gregory.
Adam Hadwin is now your solo leader at the Valspar Championship.
He says with a big pat on the back.
Yes. Not afraid of that, as we say. This next question is from Jason. Sorry to take up your time. Hi, what is the best drill for stop pulling and overdrawing shots? To stop pulling and overdrawing golf shots.
Okay. So that's really 2 we're dealing with two things at this point. So what I would say to you is, if we want to stop pulling, what I would do is, and one of the great little instructional tips that I would give you is, get yourself a shoelace. We all have tons of these. They don't cost anything at all. And what you're going to do is you're going to put that shoelace on the ground just like this. So I'll put it here, stretch it out like that. Now, if I want to stop pulling or overdrawing, what I do is I take the club, and what I want to do is I want to feel like both the path and the face are, if we go to a 7 here, both the path and the face are out in that fashion there. So if I take this and I swing this along this path right here, and I feel like my club face is, say, perpendicular to that, what I should get is a big block to the right. And that's what I got. Okay? Now, you start really, really like exaggerate that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to bring this line back a little bit. So it's not going to be quite so exaggerated. That one there started 10.5 degrees to the right, and it basically stayed there, as you can see. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing, only this time I'm not going to go quite as far. So in here like this. That was an absolutely awful golf swing. Please don't even show the outcome. That was an awful. I can only apologize to you. I apologize to my family members. I've humiliated them. My friends. I've humiliated everybody. I apologize.
I accept
in all the
your
years,
apology.
in all the, Adam Hadwin. Okay, so let's try this again. So I'm going to swing that out there, not as exaggerated as the one before. And now I hit that shot. And now what I get there is a very, very straight. Oh, I hit the target. What a bounce back that is.
I like that. That was a nice pun.
Guns out, suns out. Okay, so what you do is you just take that shoelace and just shift it. And then just keep shifting it until you get it like on the direction that you want. If you show that shot in a just pull the hub full. Or yeah. You see how straight that shot is? That means that I had the club face and the path working absolutely the way they want. It's both of the path is going one direction, the face is perpendicular to that, and I had almost a perfectly straight shot, and that golf ball was a reflection of understanding the path and face together. I'm telling you, it's a wonderful drill. Get that shoelace, plop it in the ground there, and you'll solve that problem. Okay, Gregory, that was fun. Wow. I'm sorry, by the way.
I told you, I accept. This one's from Travis. This is back to alignment here. So I tend to flare my feet. Should I then use my knees to help with that alignment?
No, the feet don't matter. This is the other thing, like Travis, the feet don't matter. As I showed you before, when I hit that shot with my back facing the target, because my back wasn't facing the target, but my feet were facing away from the target. My shoulders are facing parallel. This is the most important thing. If you want to flare your feet, flare your feet. Now, if the feet are messing you up, and I assume what you're talking about is when you get into this dance step, what I would do is I would get in there like with them absolutely pointed out and then flare your feet. So you get in square and then flare your feet. That's fine, because what you really are paying attention to is what's going on with the heels. Okay. At that point, you're concerned with the heels. So you come in, they're perpendicular. You go perpendicular, flare, flare. More flare on the forward foot than on the trail foot. Okay. Good question, Travis.
Okay, this is shifting gears a little bit. It's from Daniel. Switching gears to putting. If you have a breaking putt, are your eyes focusing on the apex of the break? Mine tend to focus on that apex relative to the hole. For instance, 6 inches outside the hole, for example.
So, no, I'm not a big fan of focusing on the apex, because in a weird way, and I know that this is going to be hard for you to believe, but the apex that you choose is never the apex. It's the apex. Like, everybody thinks that a putt is dead straight to an apex and then it breaks off the apex. Doesn't. It actually breaks to the apex. So if you aim at what you think is the apex unless you rip it, unless you really hit it fast, you're going to miss it on the low side. To me, what I try to do is I try to find the apex. Like I look at a putt and I go, okay, it breaks 6 inches out from right to left. So now I look at it and I go, can I play more? Can I play more? Can I play more? And then what I try to do is I get what I think is the most amount of break. And then I try to bring it back and I try to see if there's any more break that's coming into that putt from what we would call the apex to the golf ball. And what you're going to find out is this is why most of you underread your putts, because you find the apex, but you think it's straight line to the apex and it breaks off the apex. It doesn't. It breaks to the apex and then from the apex, because the apex, and this is gonna be really fun to understand, the apex isn't really the apex. The apex happens very early in the putt. If you go to a 3 for me, Gibbsy. So if I'm hitting a putt from here to the screen and I think the apex is right here, that's not the apex. The apex actually happens more back in here because it's breaking the whole way. And so what I like to do, quite frankly, is I like to try to find where I want to start the ball. So I focus on that start line, not necessarily an intermediate target, but I actually visualize a path that's coming in here. And then I set up to the path and hit it along that path. And then it breaks off that path, breaks past the apex, but it's still above the hole. And one of the things that you need to understand is that as long as a ball is on a breaking putt, as long as the ball is above the center line of the cup, it's always got a chance to go in. Once it gets underneath that, it has no chance to go in. Okay.
This is from Gears. Hi, very new here. Just wondering how you can be better and more consistent with iron shots from about 150 plus yards. I'm currently getting balls pinned high. They're just either left or right of the green. Thank you.
So, Gears, this is a great question, and it's really what we started the show with. We started about aim, so we'll make this the last question as a result of that. Look, to me, aim is as simple as this. Get an intermediate target. Now, I'm not trying to sell you a poker chip. They're $6, but I use this for an intermediate target. And what I would recommend to you, Gears, and again, re-emphasize to everybody who's been with us for the entire hour and 15 minutes that we've been doing this, is the following. Intermediate targets are going to help you have more consistency. They just are. And so if you decide that you want to draw the ball or you want to fade the ball, here's all you're going to do. You're going to get into this situation where you're kind of down this line. You see where you want to start it. I want to start it on the right of that target. You got your intermediate target. Now you set the club face at that. You come in the way I told you to come in. And now all we're going to do is hit this ball out over that target. And it's then going to spin back to the left-hand side a little bit. This one isn't going to spin back. But the point is that I hit that over the target. My face wasn't exactly where I wanted, but I hit that over the target, and I start it where I want to start it. The most important part of this whole thing, and that ball only faded a little bit. What you need to appreciate is the start line, much like the putt that I just talked about. The start line is critical to all this. And so in order for you to have success, you have to make sure that you start the ball on the line that you want. And then from there, there's going to be not a lot of curve. I'm telling you, you're not going to curve it a lot. So you get in here. If you want to hit it straight, you get your intermediate target straight. If you want to fade it, your intermediate target is to the inside. And then what you're doing is you're coming down, start the ball over the intermediate target and let it go. And that's really the way that you're going to solve that problem. Listen, these are always such a fun thing for us to do. And I would love to reintroduce you to both Greg Ducharme and Steve Gibbs. So Gibbsy, if you can pull up, there's Greg Ducharme. Gibbsy, just slide on in there. Oh, it's my favorite. Those two guys are making all this stuff happen. I just get up here and get a chance to talk to you about it. I appreciate so much everything that you do for us to allow us to be immersed in what we love, which is the game of golf, and helping you to perform as best as you possibly can. We also appreciate the support that you provide us on A New Breed of Golf on SiriusXM, also on Course Record, on CBS Sports Network, as well as CBS. And so, with all the different things, Golf Digest, the different platforms that we're in, A New Breed of Golf on here on YouTube and on Facebook and Twitter and all that, we love what we get to do. And humbled by the fact that we get to do it, and so grateful that you guys continue to enjoy it and support us. And so thank you. Seriously, thank you. To that end, this is going to sound a little bit nuts, but we had the game of golf was dealt a real tragedy on Wednesday and into Thursday with the death of some of the players on the Southwest Texas team, that university. The coach and I think it was 6 players on that team passed away in a horrifying crash. And all I ask you to do is, maybe if you're inclined, say a prayer for these families, do a little research, find out about it, but at least pay some respects to those young men and women who passed away and their families by learning a little bit about it. And also then too, understanding how fragile this world is. Hug your kids, hug your spouse a little bit tighter, make a phone call to somebody you haven't talked to in a while or a family member, whatever. But realize how fortunate you are to be able to do what you get to do and how quickly it can be taken from you. So please do that for all of us. This golfing community that we're all fortunate enough to be involved in is reeling a little bit. So I know that I send my well wishes to those families, that university, and obviously the 2 other individuals who passed away in that truck that was in that collision. In the meantime, I hope that everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we'll look forward to talking with you all again on SiriusXM on A New Breed of Golf on Monday morning. And thanks again for joining us here. All the best to you. If you have anything that you want to send to us, our email address is anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. If you have any recommendations, things that you think that we could do to get better, we've kind of sort of fallen into this time frame at 12 o'clock Eastern. It seems to be best for everybody. But if you've got some time that you think might work a little bit better, we'll just send us an email and let us know. Absent of that, hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.